everyone. Welcome to day 20 of our book, The Absolute Law of Karma, written by our Param Pujya Gurudev Pandit Shri Ram Sharma Acharya. Today we are going to read the topic that is titled, Who Are You? Each individual has different identities for different roles in life. This identity depends on the relationship with the person with whom he or she interacts. For mother, he or she may be an object of maternal affection, for father, an obedient child, for the teacher, an intelligent pupil, or for friends, a dependable, good-humored buddy. Wife looks at a man as her beloved darling, whereas his son relates to him as his father. The same person appears to be his enemy as an adversary, to the shopkeeper as a customer, to the servant as a master, to the horse as a rider, to a caged bird as a jailer. Bedbugs and mosquitoes find him as nothing else but a source of delicious blood. If one could visualize the various mental images which people have for an individual, it would be found that each person has one's own peculiar concept, and none of these conform to the other. Besides, none of these images identifies the whole individual accurately. Everyone conceptualizes an individual according to the particular bend with which they are mutually related to each other. It is even more assuming that man himself lives confused in his multi-personal bends. This reminds me of an example which I read somewhere, that there was a huge elephant that was brought in for inspection in a blind school, and all the blind children who were old enough were allowed to go around and touch the elephant and describe him. So some child held on to the legs of the elephant, someone to the trunk, someone to his back, someone to the tail, and they all described the elephant based on the parts they were able to touch and feel. So as a whole, if we see, none of the child was wrong, but they all had their own unique perception of the elephant because of only the parts they were able to touch. Similarly, a man in this life has so many roles to play in the life of others, that if you ask other people to define what that man is like, they will tell it from their own perception, from the area that they had been able to experience his or her presence in their life. But no one picture of that man would be complete or holistic. Even man himself would have a very different perception of his own personality, which might be different from what others perceive him to be. Throughout his life, man lives with multiple self-identifications. Various thoughts like, I am an adulterer, I am wealthy, I am old, I have no family, I am ugly, I am popular, I am happy and I am unhappy, I am surrounded by vile people, etc., etc. keep on changing and churning his ideosphere. As other people form an image about an individual according to their interests, the individual too builds an eccentric, lopsided image of himself based on perceptions of his sense organs. Like a drugged person, he keeps on hallucinating in his numerous momentary identities. If he could truly identify with his own inner self, he would be surprised to know how far he has strayed from the truth. Man always lives in a make-believe world created by his own imagination. In this dream world, one man builds castles in the air, the other fights with the windmills like Don Quixote, and yet other derives pleasure of embracing and kissing his beloved while fondling his pet dog. Deluded by ignorance, we are all hallucinating in an imaginary world. How true is this? What Gurudev is trying to explain is that if we really identify our true nature and come out of this delusion of the imaginary world, which is so very much based on the body consciousness. And if we come out of that, and if we identify the truth, identify with our true nature, that is how our own Atma, our own Antahakaran, our own inner self is nothing but a part of that Paramatma, of that universal power, of that supreme being, of that divine light. If we realize this, then we realize that how far we were from the truth, or how superficially we were leading our lives, or how we were just consumed by so many unnecessary thoughts that are so far away from the real inner self. One thinks that he is living in a palace. The other trembles because of imaginary fears. Yet another day dreams of being engaged to the most beautiful damsel in the world. Some insane people are found rejoicing in showing off wealth and kingdom. This world is like a mental asylum where we find all types of madcaps. Each has one's own eccentricity. Everyone considers himself as the most intelligent person. Go to a mental asylum and observe the fantasies of the long-term inmates. You will find a close parallel to the daydreamers of this world, who very much consider themselves as sane and sober. Your Gurudev is trying to draw a parallel between a mental asylum and the world in general, where he is calling out a few very wild traits, like how someone thinks they own a palace, which is the best thing to own, how someone has many imaginary fears, how some people are just rejoicing in showing off their wealth and how much money and big house and big cars they have. So all this is nothing but a sign of, as Gurudev says, mental instability, because they are not realizing that none of this is going to go with them when they die. And when I say they die, it does not mean the death of the spirit, it just means the death of this body. Because the spirit lives on, your inner self, your subconscious mind, the energy body, the subtle body, the emotional body is the only thing that will go on. And with that goes your karmas. If any one of you has seen the movie Matrix, it just brings the thought of the Matrix movie to me, that how we never realize we are living in a matrix, and the universe is so much more big or bigger in dimension, in perception, and how so much more powerful in just changing our attitude towards how we lead our lives. Because we must remember that this world is nothing but permanent. This world is nothing but delusionary, hallucination-inducing, imaginary, and mortal. Because what is not mortal and what is not temporary is the inner self. And it's only the inner self, because once we die, that is what is gone beyond in the divine parlance. And that is why Gurudev is also pointing out that how easily we keep living in this make-believe world, and how we create our own world in our own imagination, and we build castles in the air, and we fight with each other. We, on a daily basis, we just exploit and fight and complain and criticize so much that we forget the bigger picture, that one day when we close our eyes permanently, none of this will help us in elevating. None of this is going to go beyond us, but only the emotions that we let out, only the way in which we made others feel, or only the energies that we gave out is what is going to go beyond with us. Therefore, there is nothing to worry, nothing to be scared of, and the only thing to do in this world is to love, love and love. This also reminds me of something I read back a few days ago. 5 most powerful tools to release stress. I was reading this article on LinkedIn, and one of the things was, of course, related to meditation, as meditation has become these days the most in thing or the most cool thing to be done. But when the point of meditation was mentioned, it mentioned that meditate on death. At the first go, it might sound like a very extreme concept and very disturbing, because we don't want to think about our death. We don't want to talk about death. Why? The Gen X hashtag of YOLO, you live only once, and eat as much as you want, make merry as much as you want, travel as much as you want, spend as much as you want, and just party, live life, work hard, party harder. But never would we want to think about death, because that is something so morbid. But why meditating on death, why talking and meditating on such a morbid subject is important? Because we must realize our true nature, that is, our spirit is immortal, that this will not get destroyed. What will get destroyed is the wealth, the clothes, the house, the travels, the money, the possessions that we have, but not the energies that we give out, not the way in which we love, not the way in which we make others around us feel, not the way in which we lead our lives, with the intentions and emotions and thoughts with which we lead our lives will ever get destroyed. And hence it is very necessary to realize who we actually are. What are we? And Gurudev has also written another book. It was actually the first book that Gurudev wrote out of more than 3,200 books that he has written in this lifetime, which was titled What Am I? 𝗢𝐴 It is a very, very, very small book, maybe just of 20 or maximum 30 pages, and it is actually a guide about meditation, how to meditate on your true nature, on your true self, on your inner self. And it is titled 𝗢𝐴 What Am I? It is worth a read, and it is a wonderful book, and I highly, highly, highly recommend if you ever have time, because it is such a small book that it won't take more than few minutes or an hour to read, but it is absolutely eye-opening. So thank you for listening in today. Pranam everyone.
हमारे YouTube चैनल को सब्सक्राइब कीजिए और बेल आइकन पर क्लिक कीजिए, ताकि आने वाली सभी वीडियो की नोटिफिकेशन आपको मिलती रहे। आप सभी को बहुत बहुत थैंक यू।